Well, more arrests were made today in the investigation of the Manchester suicide bombing attack. Emotions are already high, nerves raw after Monday evening's massacre. But it is the behavior of U.S. intelligence agencies and the U.S. media that are drawing vocal criticism tonight. Today, the Manchester police stopped sharing information with the UK's American intel partners. Now, that decision came after the U.S. media revealed the suspect's identity and then published leaked pictures of what are thought to be remnants of the explosives and the blue backpack used to carry it into the concert venue. I want you to take a listen to what a very upset Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham said today.
Honestly, I just find this staggering that we've been in this position this week, almost from the very first minute, American media reporting details of the investigation here. The principle has always got to be that the authorities leading the investigation control the release of the information so as not to compromise it. But the Americans, it would seem, don't respect that. You know, it is wrong, it is arrogant, it is disrespectful to the people of Greater Manchester, but mainly to the families who've lost loved ones and to those injured.
Well, the media under fire there in Manchester. The U.S. president has ordered an investigation into the alleged leaks. So to comb through this and more of today's news, I'm happy to welcome here on the day, Jill Abramson. She is in Berlin this week as a lecturer at the American Academy, but much of the world knows her as the first woman editor-in-chief at the New York Times. She earned her reporting stripes in Washington, D.C. We are happy to have her here at the big table. Jill, it's really an honor to have you. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight.
I'm so happy to be here, Brent.
Thank you, thank you. I want to start by asking you to listen to a comment that was made today by the chief of police in Manchester. Take a listen.
Alongside the investigation, as I said yesterday, we have a team of specially trained family liaison officers working with the families of those who tragically lost their lives in Monday's attack. Last night, the family liaison officers shared with those families the fact that intelligence had been leaked and published in the New York Times. It is absolutely understandable the distress and upset that this caused to those families who are already suffering, as everyone can imagine.
What's your take on what is going on here? Would you say that the media, the New York Times, has someone overstepped a boundary with the identity and with the pictures, the leaked pictures?
Well, I think we have to step back and first say, was publishing the pictures in the public interest? Did the public thirst for this information? And I think the answer to that is yes, that the New York Times is in the business of informing people, and those pictures did help inform. It showed the detonator for the device, the backpack and all that. I don't think there's any problem with the New York Times publishing those pictures.
Even if it's leaked by someone in the CIA, the NSA?
The balancing test for a quality publication like the New York Times is to set those concerns on one side of the scale and then on the other to put the constitutional role of the press in the U.S. is to hold power accountable. In this case, the investigators, the police, whomever is involved in authority, and hold them to account and to inform the public. And I think the scales tip towards public disclosure.
It's interesting that you say the U.S. Constitution, because we have authorities in Manchester, England, who were upset.
Very different.
And there's perhaps a different measuring stick, too, about what is in the public interest.
Oh, they definitely have a different measuring
stick. Right. And so isn't this just this friction that we're seeing? It's inevitable, isn't it, in today's globalized...
It's inevitable, and I had to deal with it on a number of stories when I was editor of the Times, and we were dealing with, let's say, a trial in Britain. There are very restrictive laws here for what the press can and can't report. And
Are you worried about what U.S. President Trump or his attorney general could do with the momentum here? He's already said he wants an investigation.
A leak investigation,
yeah, exactly.
right.
And we know that Mr. Sessions has entertained the thought of prosecuting journalists in the U.S. who report using leaked information.
Well, I very much hope that the Attorney General does not try to do that. He would be doing it under a very old and obscure law, the Espionage Act of 1917, which hasn't been used to prosecute journalists. Unfortunately, in leak investigations, it's the source of the information. So if the information that was recently published came from federal investigators, it would be those people who are at legal risk, not the journalists, unless, you know, President Trump and Attorney General Sessions intend to change, you know, what has been custom for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, we know there's a willingness there in other aspects to change custom.
Correct.
Jill, stand by. There is yet another story involving politics and journalism colliding.
Just
Literally.
my kind of thing.
Literally, yes. Stand by.
I was there too.
In the U.S. state of Montana, which is known as Big Sky Country, a Montana Republican running for U.S. Congress has been charged with assaulting a journalist. Now, this on the eve of a closely watched election. Greg Gianforte is hoping for Montana's only seat in the House of Representatives, which Republicans have held for 2 decades. But on the campaign trail on Wednesday, he allegedly body slammed Guardian journalist Ben Jacobs to the ground and broke his glasses. Jacobs' recorder caught the incident. Take a listen.
And we'll talk to you about that later.
Yeah, but there's not going to be time. I'm just curious if you have
Okay,
the
speak
right
with
now.
Shane, please.
But you don't.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last time that came in here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. The last guy did the same thing. You were the Guardian.
Yes, and you just broke my glasses.
The last guy did the same damn thing.
You just body slammed me and broke my glasses.
Get the hell out of here.
If you'd like me to get the hell out of here, I'd also like to call the police.
What goes through your mind when you hear that, Jill, as a journalist?
I am shocked. I know that sentiment against the press, especially among Republican politicians, is running high, and that emotions sometimes build up and explode. But this was completely out of bounds. You know, The Guardian, I write a political column for them. It's, you know, a great, respected publication, and to body slam and break a reporter's glasses. I mean, he used a great deal of force in this unfortunate encounter, and it's completely over the line.
And what does it say to that the Republican Party? You haven't had a massive retaliation against this candidate either, coming from the Republican Party because of this. I mean, you had, 3 newspapers in Montana immediately said, we withdraw our endorsement of him.
Well, you know, the Republican Party right now, from what I've been reporting, keeps shooting itself in the foot. And we'll see. You know, it's the public that matters, and they'll be voting within hours. So we'll see what they make of this.
That's a very good point.